All right. Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Adrian, and I am the Education and Community Liaison at the Nanaimo Brain Injury Society. This is our first online education session, and given the current events that are happening with COVID-19, we decided to invite NBIS friend and supporter, Dr. Nancy Reeves, to join us to talk about some coping strategies during stress and difficult times. So I am sure a lot of you are familiar with Dr. Reeves, but for those of you who don't know her, Dr. Nancy Reeves is a registered psychologist who has worked in the area of grief, loss, and personal injury and trauma for over 40 years. She has worked extensively with people with acquired brain injury and those who love them, their caregivers. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Reeves and give her a chance to talk to you about some coping strategies during this time.
Right.
Welcome, Dr. Reeves.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Hopefully, this is going to be helpful. I know there's a lot of help out there on the web and everything. I specifically wanted to focus this for people with acquired brain injuries and those who love them, because there can be some added issues, as you probably all realize. So we're looking at coping with stress during difficult times, particularly now with the COVID-19. And so you're all hopefully at home and safe. Social isolation is big, and worry about COVID-19 can bring up a lot of emotions, including anxiety. Anxiety, anticipating what might happen, anxiety because you feel restricted being at home, not able to maybe do some of the programs or supports that you normally would do that would help you deal with stress and anxiety. Also, a lot of people have been telling me they're just bored. They want to be out and doing things, and they're not used to being home all the time. Feeling trapped is another one, saying I want to get out and I can't, and that feeling can get worse and worse and worse. Fear. Some people have loved ones who are infected, or they may be thinking that they might be infected themselves, and that could bring up fear as well as anxiety. Frustration, just at having life change so dramatically and with no sense of when it's going to end. They keep saying, well, maybe 2 more weeks, but now it seems to be that it's going to be going on a lot longer. So all of these emotions can be really difficult. Loneliness. Some people have been saying that they're so used to getting out to different programs, maybe coming to the coffee drop-in at NBIS, and they really miss the sense of camaraderie and support that they get, and they're feeling quite lonely. So how do we deal with these distressing feelings? Self-care strategies are really important at this time. And we all have some self-care strategies. Some work really well, some may not work as well. But in order to really look after ourselves well, we need to have them in the 4 different dimensions. We need to have cognitive strategies, we need to have emotional strategies, we need to have physical ones, and we need to have spiritual. Now I'm just going to define spirituality, because some people say, well, I'm not religious, or I don't go to church or whatever. I think we're all spiritual. Spirituality is where our beliefs and our values live. When we say, this is what I believe to be a good person, or this is what I try to do in order to live well, that is accessing our beliefs and our values. It's accessing our spirituality. So in order to really look after ourselves at this time, we need to be really conscious of the self-care strategies we have, whether they're working for us or not, and maybe add some new ones. So I thought I'd just go over in more detail each of these. So cognitive, for our mental support, we really need to understand the reality of COVID-19, that it is really serious. Some people say, well, I think the best way to deal with this is to just ignore it. Yeah, I'll self-isolate. Yeah, I'll stay away from people. but I don't want to get more upset. Well, the research shows that people who ignore a problem actually feel more anxious because they're not doing anything to take charge of it, to deal with it. That when people can say, yeah, this is serious, I need to be careful for myself, I need to, have others around me be careful, they actually find their anxiety start to decrease. But we can get overwhelmed. We can OD on all the information that's coming out about COVID-19. So I suggest find some media, whether it's online or on the radio or on TV, that you trust. Something like CBC is really good. They're not inflating, they're not getting into hysteria around it. They're giving clear information. And watch it or listen to it in small doses. Maybe in the morning, kind of check in the evening, check in, but don't kind of go through the day. That will raise the anxiety and also the frustration and all those other negative emotions. So small doses of information. Also realizing that all of these symptoms that you would normally be experiencing as part of the brain injury are likely to be heightened at this time. Anytime there's added stress, symptoms like difficulty with memory, difficulty with concentration, being easily distracted, having difficulty making decisions, even our energy can be impacted by stress. So if you realize that, then that can calm things somewhat. You can use strategies to deal with your symptoms of your brain injury and not worry. Like one person contacted me saying, I'm getting worse. My brain injury is getting worse. And he said, no, it's not getting worse. It's just you've added another layer to it. You've added the stress of this time. Something that can help mentally as well is to learn something new. One man said to me, I used to enjoy cooking. And then after my aneurysm, I found that I just couldn't follow complicated recipes. It was just too much for me. And as we talked about that last week, he said, you know what I think I'm going to do during this time? I'm going to have a project. I'm going to make myself a cookbook. I'm going to find recipes that I like, and I'm going to break them down. Right now, the recipe might say, go and get a medium-sized saucepan. Then I have to think, where's the medium-sized saucepan? Where did I put it? Where if I get my own little recipe book, it will say, get the medium-sized saucepan, which is in the lower drawer beside the fridge. I can break it down into steps that make it more fun for me, not as stressful. So he chose cooking, but you could choose anything that you learn, because learning something new helps our brain. It also takes our focus. So when people ask, how are we doing? Rather than just saying, well, bored and frustrated, and we can say, well, I just learned this, or I'm working on this. A lot of people find it helpful during regular times with an acquired brain injury to structure your day, to not have to be always thinking, well, what do I want to do now? What am I supposed to do now? It can even be more important during this time that you not only structure it, but you make sure you're getting self-care within your day, within the time that you're awake. So your regular structure, the programs you go to, the work or the school or whatever, can't be done now, but you can put in different times during the day where you're looking after yourself in either new ways or in ways that work really well. Doing some gentle brain work also can be helpful. Puzzles, reading. I had a woman who said to me, I can't read anymore. I forget what I'm reading. I read the same thing over and over again. It's frustrating. And a little while later, she came back to me and she said, I found a way to read. I'm reading books that I've read in the past and really love. I know the story already, but when you read it again, you can always pick up something new. And that can be really enjoyable. So she says, I'm rereading all the books I read as a teen and young adult, and I'm really enjoying it. There's also uh, really good audiobooks at the library sites. And I just heard that the Vancouver Island public library system is giving unlimited audiobooks for anyone who has a library card. And those can be fun because you hear different voices, they have different accents. You can listen to books that you already know and just experience them in a whole different way. This is a huge opportunity during the time we're all self-isolating to develop positive habits. So if you look and see, okay, these are the symptoms of my brain injury that I'm particularly frustrated by or feel restricted by, then learning ways to pace yourself better, learning ways to look after yourself, positive self-talk rather than putting yourself down. Find something that you think will help you grow and heal and work on that. There's lots of, if somebody is, for example, feeling I need to learn to be more assertive, they can go online and, go on YouTube, put in assertiveness training, and there's tons of stuff that will come up teaching people how to be assertive, doing that in bits and pieces. So those are some of the things that can help us cognitively, that can help our brain during this time. Emotionally, we got to remember that social distancing is not emotional distancing. Yeah, we're not face to face with friends and maybe family, but we can still connect with them. And it takes a little more effort, but I think really important to do. Lots of research does show that having social contacts can relieve stress, make people feel that life is more meaningful. Also, finding activities that bring you pleasure, making sure that every day you do something that is enjoyable. Somebody might say, well, I used to get out in my garden and really enjoyed that. Can't do that as easily now. Well, maybe get a plant and bring it in and just be with it each day. Do something that is going to bring you some kind of joy. Smile. See a lot of worried faces, a lot of frowns when I do go to the grocery store. When we smile, the myelinated vagus nerve that's attached in our face down to our heart is activated. When we smile, our heart calms down, our blood pressure lowers. Physiologically, you can make yourself feel better just by smiling. Now, some people have a hard time just kind of sitting there and smiling, but thinking about loved ones, thinking about happy things, going online and looking for happy news, something that's supportive. In Japan, when people were able to work in their offices, they gave them 15 minutes a day to just go online and look for cute, happy clips, because they realized that by smiling, by enjoying cute antics of kittens or something, that it got people smiling and it really reduced their stress. It calmed them down. I was on the Weather Network yesterday, and there's a story of a Welsh town, and because people aren't out on the streets, all of these wild goats have decided to take over the town. And so these beautiful wild goats are just wandering all over the place. And that brought a lot of smile to me. I told a number of people about it. They smiled too. And smiling can be infectious. So just think each day, smile. Find something to smile about. One quality that really helps us be resilient, to bounce back when we're having difficulty, is a sense of humor. Every morning, I go on gocomics.com. It's free. They have tons and tons of current and past comics. And I have three of them that I really enjoy, and I just look at them each day and I have a laugh, and I carry that with me. One woman who was very depressed, and we were working together and wasn't finding much that was helping her, she said, you know, if I go to a comedy club, I feel really good for hours, but my anxiety keeps me from going to the comedy club. So I said, well, have you checked out favorite comedians online? And she got back to me later and she said, I'm doing that every day now. There's a couple I follow. They have lots of good material, and it's really helped my depression. So finding ways to exercise your sense of humor, having a joke of the day, telling it to other people. Shifting thoughts that bring negative emotions. Okay, so when we say, I feel trapped, I feel really trapped. Instead, if we can shift that, because you could go out, you could touch people, you could do these, but you're not, because you're a responsible person. So instead of saying, I feel trapped, to say, I am choosing to self-isolate because I care about others and I care about myself. I want not to get this virus. I want to keep other people from getting it. So I'm being responsible. So we can shift our thinking from the negative to a more realistic positive. People say, well, you know, I'm not in control. I can't really control whether I'm going to get it or not. No, you can't, but we're very rarely in control in our lives. People keep saying to me, well, I was in control before my accident or before my stroke or whatever. No, you just probably had the illusion you were in control because nothing bad happened. We can be in charge. Control means directly influencing, like keeping ourselves from getting the virus. Being in charge means having power to put ourselves in the best place possible so that we're not likely to get it. Being in charge in our relationships means getting my needs met, being aware of other people's needs and helping with them, being able to negotiate. Where being in control means ordering people around. It's not good for relationships. So if you find that you're going on these negative thoughts all the time, see if there's a way that you can shift it. Now, the last two things emotionally, love and gratitude. I like Gibran's definition of love. Life without love is like a tree without blossoms or fruit. Love makes the world go round. There's really interesting research on love, that when you love, it creates intense energy, exhilaration, focused attention, and motivation to win awards. When you have long-term relationships, it promotes overall well-being, increased self-esteem, happiness, and satisfaction with the relationship. And I realize that it can be very challenging being in a relationship with an acquired brain injury. There can be times of frustration and difficulty with miscommunication, with difficulty with understanding. This could be a wonderful time to work on your relationships, your intimate relationships, your friendships, relationships with children, with parents, other family members. This could be a time to show love. And by doing that, making the relationships better, but also helping you, making you feel that life is more worthwhile, that you're not just existing, but you're living. So finding ways to love. Now, doesn't just mean loving people. You may love your companion animals. You may love your garden. You may love your car. Anything that we really put a lot of our energy into, that we want the other, whether it's an inanimate object or a living one, we want that to be the best it can be. We want good things for it. That's love. And so it's important that we can love each day. It also physically can lower your blood pressure and promote calmness, and it strengthens cognitive functioning. So it's good for your brain. Gratitude, being grateful, saying thank you, receiving thanks can do all sorts of wonderful things. Those who kept gratitude journals, some of the research shows, tended to exercise more regularly. They focused less on physical symptoms. They felt more optimistic about the future. People who had some kind of gratitude practice, and that doesn't mean spending an hour writing in a journal. You might just talk to somebody else in the home or on telephone and saying, you know, what I'm grateful for today is this. What are you grateful for? It can be as quick as that. People who experience gratitude more consciously are more likely to progress towards their goals. Young adults, they found, have higher levels of alertness, enthusiasm, attentiveness. People who are grateful are more likely to help others. The world feels like a better place. Going out and clapping at 7 o'clock for the healthcare providers, showing gratitude in that way. It's wonderful how many countries people are doing that now, and it's bringing people together. There also is less interest in materialism when people are grateful, because they don't need things in order to feel that life is good. The thing with gratitude, though, is it's got to be both the giver and the receiver experiencing the gratitude. So if somebody says to me, Nancy, thank you so much for what you've done, and I respond with, well, it wasn't a big deal, that's rejecting their gratitude. So they're not going to feel good. They're not going to get the benefit of it, and I'm not either. If I can just gracefully say, oh, you're so welcome, thank you for telling me, then I can feel the gratitude and they can feel the gratitude. A Cree woman once told me, when you're going through difficult times, get a gratitude team around you. Remember those who have helped you in the past and ask for their energy to be with you now. And that could be a dog when you were a young child. It could be a favorite tree that you climbed up into when you were feeling lonely or sad. It could be people that were in your life or are in your life now. It could be people that were inspiring to you when you read about them or heard about them. She said, remember those. Remember how they helped you. And often you'll feel better, but you'll also find the way through. You'll remember what they might have told you that was helpful for you. Okay, so we've looked at the emotional and we've looked at the cognitive self-care strategies. Physical. Forest bathing is a Japanese concept. And they say when you go out in nature, you can feel better, you can feel calmer. And actually, the scientists have discovered there's molecules that trees and other vegetation gives off that can have a calming effect on us, that can make us feel better. So if you've ever had the experience of walking out into a forest and it just feels so intensely wonderful, you're probably picking up on some of those molecules. Getting out in nature, and it doesn't have to be a total forest. It can be your backyard. It can be, I noticed one person the other day standing in the village where I live, just staring at a bush, intently at the bush. And I said, what are you doing? He says, if you really stop and look at it, it is beautiful. But usually I just walk by quickly. I guess it is true what they say, stop and smell the roses. So physically, getting out in nature or being involved with nature, maybe bringing it into the house, like bringing a plant in. Exercise, really important. Exercise helps promote all sorts of good things to calm us, to give us more of a sense of well-being. Also, when we're in better shape, we're doing better. Now, that can be challenging at these times, but hopefully you can go out at times or exercise in times when it's appropriate, when you're not going to be putting yourself at risk. Being cooped up, I heard on the news today that more couples have been filing for divorce in the last few weeks than is normal because they're cooped up with each other. And you can get on each other's nerves for sure. Well, although we love maybe the people who we're living with, it's also can be really frustrating, and we can feel some trappedness because of that. So really important to have some alone time each day, to be able to say, okay, when I go into this room and shut the door, I need my space. That's going to be good for everybody. That could also help us to learn the joy of solitude. It's not loneliness. It's just really enjoying being with ourselves. So having some alone time and resting, important, because just being around, you feel the stress of the world of these days. The last thing physically, and I'm sure there's lots more that you could come up with, but is to hug yourself. I had a friend the other day who we were talking on the phone, and she said, oh, I'd love to be able to give you a hug right now. And I said, yeah, I'd like that too. And she says, so tell you what, hug yourself and I'll hug myself, and we'll know that we're hugging each other. And it felt good. It felt good. So finding physical ways to calm yourself down or to stimulate yourself. The spiritual, clarifying your values, clarifying your spiritual beliefs and practicing them. If kindness is important to you, then okay, what can I do today to show some kindness? What can I do, or what did I do today to show some kindness? Practicing mindfulness and other forms of meditation. If you haven't been trained to do this, there's lots and lots online. Headspace.com is a particularly good one. A lot of my clients who have acquired brain injuries tell me. Normally, it costs about $70 a year, which isn't too much. But right now, during COVID-19, they have a number of meditations on for free. And so you just go online and headspace.com and click on where it says for COVID-19 use. And you get a number of different meditations for sleep, meditations for stress, for anxiety, and can try them out. Also, just going on YouTube and putting in mindfulness meditation and listening to the different voices until you find one you really like. Doing something kind for someone, always kind of mentioned that, but it can give us a real boost, a sense that we're kind of in charge, we're able to influence our environment in a positive way. I do suggest, though, that people are careful when they think they're doing something kind for someone, that they really check out if the person wants it. I know people talk about random acts of kindness. I shudder when I hear that, because random, the definition of random means not thought out, I don't want somebody deciding what would be kind for me and pushing it on me. If somebody says, for example, would you like me to do such and such? I can say yes or no. And even if I say no, I can feel good that they offered. But if they just do it and I don't feel good about it, I may not be able to tell them. And that's not good for either person. So doing something kind, but kind of checking out if this would be actually kind, if it would be useful. A lot of the people that I work with have different affirmations that have helped them get through rough times. When a window closes somewhere, a door opens. The only way out is through. Um, when it, it's tough, keep going, or things like that. There's lots again of affirmations online. People need to choose their own affirmation, though. If I said to you, well, the only way out is through, that probably would feel more like a dismissing thing or a rationalization. Where if you find it's your affirmation, then it's going to feel good for you and it will guide you. I had a young woman who was very independent, and after her injury, she needed a lot of help, but she felt bad about it. She felt she was being weak, that she shouldn't ask for help. She shouldn't let people help her. And as we worked, of course, she didn't want to see me at first, but as we worked on things, she started to realize that no, asking for help might be okay, but she still had a hard time doing it. She also was really grieving for the person she'd been before, which is really normal. But she said, when I think of grieving, I stop it right away. If I'm feeling sad, I stop it right away because it feels like beating your head against a brick wall. And I said, well, the thing is, grieving, let yourself feel your sadness, your anger, whatever, is a way to heal. It's a way to understand what you've lost and maybe what you can then gain. But you can't do it unless you let yourself grieve. I said, so when you keep thinking of beating your head against a brick wall, who wants to do that? You're going to pull away. Could you find a different image, a different symbol for grief, an affirmation that would help you, allow you to grieve, but would also allow you to realize that it can be hard work, it can be rough? She came back and she said, it took me a while, but I found it. She says, I see grieving as a path through a winter deadened forest. The blackberry vines grab you when you walk through. You trip on the stones and the roots. But you need to keep going because you want to get to the meadow where you see the sun glinting. So grieving is hard, but needs to be done. But what I realized is I was trying to walk that path naked. I said, naked? She says, yeah. She says, when people give you support, when people help you, they don't take away things. They don't take away your pain or your difficulties. But what it's like giving you padded clothing, which when you walk the path, you don't hurt yourself as much. When you stumble, it doesn't hurt to fall. When you get caught in the blackberry vines, your clothes stop it from piercing your flesh. She says, what I realized is I need other people to help me. And so this is my symbol and my affirmation of my path. And as soon as I realized that, I phoned a friend and I said, do you want to go for a walk? I just need to be with someone right now. She said, it was hard to do it, but I knew that it was necessary. So finding some affirmations that get you through this. Okay. So some of these strategies can be practiced daily. Some of them just periodically, ever so often, maybe once or twice a week. Sometimes we need to bring out the really effective ones for times of very high stress. So it can be useful to write down what self-care strategies you find helpful on a cognitive level, an emotional level, physical, and spiritual. And then even have that list on the fridge. So when you're feeling frustrated or you're feeling worried about this time, that you can look on that and say, which of these is going to help me the most? Which is going to give me what I need at this point? Okay. Some strategies will calm us down. Some strategies will stimulate us. We need to ask ourselves, what do I need right now? If I'm feeling kind of down, I may need to go online and listen to a comedian and start to laugh until I'm sick. I may need that stimulation. At other times, I may need to dance quietly in my room to calm music. I may need to do some meditation. So trying to get a sense of which we need at any one moment means we're intelligently choosing the strategy that's going to work the best for us. Okay. I suggest having like a daily checklist like this, where you can say what my self-care strategies are, and then ask yourself, maybe in the morning, okay, which of these do I think I want to use today? And at the end of the day, which did I actually use? And then allow yourself to feel good about the success you've had with them. And if you have had times of difficulty, then making a decision of what I need to do during those times in the future. Okay. So I hope this has been helpful. I know it's been relatively short, but that by looking after ourselves more intelligently, more consciously during this time, we can come out the other end and say, yeah, it restricted me in some ways, but I also did some healing and growing. So thanks for being here, and keep safe and sound.
Thank you, Dr. Reeves. Really appreciate you giving us some tips and tricks of dealing with this difficult time. I know personally, just going for a walk in my neighborhood and seeing all the hearts in the windows, I get inspired by, this sense of community and that everyone's kind of in this together. So Nanaimo Brain Injury Society is still here. We're still available. If anybody wants to reach out, you can get more information on nbis.ca. I want to thank Dr. Reeves again, and we will see you on the next education session. So have a great night. Bye now.
Good night.